New Year's Eve, 2006. Let me take you back. For the second year, Ryan Seacrest was hosting New Year's Rockin' Eve. Dick Clark was sidelined by a stroke. Shakira's hips weren't lying. And Justin Timberlake, well, he was bringing sexy back. Erika Cirioni was 26 that year. She was a mother of two, a lover of Captain Morgan, a woman struggling with drug addiction. I'm not judging. I'm 27, and well, let's just say I've had some rowdy New Year's Eves. I bet you have too. Because that's what we do, right? We meet up with friends we haven't seen in a while, or friends we see all the time. Let a little loose, get that last cheat day in before we go to work on our resolutions. We do it knowing a hangover might greet us in the morning. It's a consequence we're willing to accept. On December 31st, 2006, the air was warmer than usual. Erika Cirioni went to her mom's house on Division Street in Norwich. She took a shower and headed to the space where she kept most of her clothes. She picked a green shirt, blue jeans, sneakers. She asked her mom, Carol, if she wanted to go downtown. The city was hosting a so-called first night celebration that year. Organizers had made a pretty big deal about it. But Carol had to work early, so she said no. Erika gave her two boys a kiss. They were 4 and 8 at the time. She threw on a black jacket with a fur hood. She walked out of the house. Did Erika wake up the next morning with a hangover? We may never know. Other than the friends she was with that night, no one ever saw her again. Alive, at least.
From the day in New London, Connecticut, I'm Carlos Virgen, and this is Case Unsolved. So who was Erika Cirioni? And what happened to her that New Year's night? Who was she with? Where did she go? We'll try to answer these questions over the next 3 episodes. A warning to our listeners. This episode contains some profanity. Here's reporter Lindsay Boyle with part 1 of the story.
No one denies that Erika Cirioni had gotten mixed up with the wrong crowd. Her young adult life was littered with trips to and from court. She drove with a suspended license, sold marijuana, and, in the eyes of the law, recklessly endangered others.
Yes, she had issues, yes, we know all of that, but she was still a person. She was still a mother, a daughter.
And she wasn't like that all her
sister,
life,
you
that's
know.
just it, you know.
Erika's mom, Carol, and her sister, Lisa Mello, spoke to us from Lisa's Cedar Street home. Growing up, Lisa was more than 10 years older than her sister, Erika.
Me and my mom always worked opposite shifts when the kids were growing up. I took care of Erika, my brother, and my niece that my mom had, and she took care of my kids. We worked opposite shifts, so we were always, you know, one of us always had all the kids, so it was just what we had to do at the time. Survival.
Lisa had 4 kids, 2 daughters, 2 sons.
My older kids, there wasn't a lot of age difference between Erika and them.
Yeah.
Erika, my brother, and them were all within, 10 years? So they were all more like siblings than uncle and aunt, you know. So they all went through stages where they hung out with her, where, you know, they'd go out together, they'd go to the mall, they'd go wherever, you know, go to a movie or whatever.
Yeah.
They were all close at different stages of life, you know.
Me and my aunt, we fought like siblings growing up.
Erika's nephew, Jason Pagan, is one of Lisa's sons. He lives in Massachusetts now, but agreed to speak to us by phone.
For a good amount of time, we were also under the same roof because my mom, my grandmother would, try to do their best. And, we had a bigger place to live in, but they were trying to, they would join up and, pay the bills and split everything. I mean, for the most part, it would be my uncle, my aunt, and then my mother with us 4, my brother and 2 sisters.
Jason said his grandma often welcomed her children's friends into the home, too.
She couldn't stand, just a young kid not having a place to stay or having issues at home, or just, like I said, she has a huge heart.
For Jason, looking back on that time period is hard. Just 17 days after Erika went missing, Carol's husband, Dominic Jr., lost his battle with cancer. Then, just before Christmas in 2010, the next tragedy struck.
And I know my son kind of blamed himself because he he was that kind. He would protect her. He was her protector. He said he was the man of the house. He was supposed to protect her, and that was in his head. And he tried to commit suicide a couple of times, and the last time he succeeded.
Dominic III, or Nicky, as friends and family called him, was 36 years old. Even before all the loss, dysfunction sometimes defined the family. Living paycheck to paycheck is hard. Fights about money and life were common. But Jason said he remembers good things too.
It's just like any story like this. It's, you have to really make yourself, relive those moments and remember the good and remember the person rather than thinking about how things were for the last 4 to 6 years or longer.
In one of Jason's earliest memories, he was 4 or 5 years old, a kindergartner at the Jennings School in New London. Erika would have been 8 or 9.
Sometimes walking home, she'd be responsible for me. Sometimes after school, when we lived down in London, I can't remember what street, but it was right off Bank. This little ice cream shop, a little hole in the wall kind of ice cream shop. And it had, a few arcade games, and it had, like 25-cent ice cream, I think, at the time. And I remember my grandmother and my mother would, while they were working, give Erika a couple dollars. And I think a couple dollars went a long way, back, we're talking 25, 30 years ago. And I think I was able to, I thought it was the best thing in the world. I got a couple ice cream cones. I got to play the game. It felt like forever. And I kind of look forward to I look forward to that. I remember when I was younger, I just, are we gonna do that after school today? Are we gonna go there? And her telling, yep, we're gonna go.
Jason doesn't remember the name of the place, but he said he remembers the walk to school like it was yesterday. They lived near the top of Mountain Avenue, hung a left on Prest, a right on Blackhall, and a right on Williams, which they followed to the school. The whole walk was about half a mile. The shop Jason's talking about was near the intersection of Prest and Blackhall. It's a little hole-in-the-wall building that I'm sure has been many things over the years. Jason remembers it being a cool blue color. I made a few phone calls and, believe it or not, even went to the library to look at old city directories, but I couldn't figure out what it would have been in the late 80s. Today the place is yellow and red. It's called Deli International, and it boasts having cold beer and an ATM inside. Anyway, I digress. Jason said he and his family left New London for Norwich when he was 5 or 6. When she was a little older, Jason remembers Erika being planted in front of the TV, jabbing away at a Super Nintendo controller. She loved Super Mario Brothers and Donkey Kong, was determined to get farther than she had the last time she sat down. Sometimes they'd spend time at Carol's house on Cordo Road, playing Yahtzee or Rummy in the kitchen until the wee hours of the morning. Jason said Erika cheated at both, but he didn't mind. Jason remembers playing in the snow, running around in the sun, being picked on by Erika and her friends. It was playful, he said, never mean. They didn't have much, but they always had each other.
I told my aunt, she was the first person I told, I like this girl in school, And I remember her, driving, and, one of her good friends were in the other seat, just, it was good times. It was fun, those kind of no worry type of days, just no worries. You're just a kid.
Erika was an at-home type of person. She kept her circle of friends small, and she liked it that way.
She didn't really give me any problems. I mean, she was spoiled, but she was the baby. But she never gave me any problems. I never had to... No, not really.
That's Erika's mom, Carol. We talked to her separately earlier this month. At Norwich Free Academy, Erika was in the Alternative Curriculum for Educational Success program. It's better known as ACES, and helps students who need some extra guidance. She wasn't getting into serious trouble or anything, but she had started showing up late or cutting out early to smoke cigarettes with her friends.
And one time I remember she was on the green, and they called me at work, and I was all done with my job, so I got in my car, and I drove to the green, I parked. I said, "Hey, Erika, what are you doing here?" And she goes, "How do you know I was here?" I got connections. I mean, her face just fell. she was like in total shock. I said, "I told you, I got connections. They tell me everything you do."
So, how old do you think she was when the first time that you caught her smoking cigarettes, when you pulled up slyly like that?
Well, she probably did at an early age, but probably about 15. I didn't really have a reaction. I figured, well, and that was before they had the cancer scares and the emphysemas and all that. I figured she was a kid and maybe she outgrow it. Because, I mean, I smoked too, but not that young. And I had, my sisters and brothers, they all, my sister, she started smoking when she was 12. And when cigarettes were only like 25 cents a pack. Now, I wouldn't even touch a cigarette. $11, $12 a pack now?
Anyway, being in the ACEs program helped Erika stay on track. She even made the honor roll, her mom said.
And after she got pregnant young with Brandon, and she was afraid to tell me, naturally. But I told her, you go through high school, I'll help you. And she did. She graduated early.
When Erika graduated in 1998, she became the first in her family to do so. In a photo from the ceremony, Erika's beaming. Her mom has one arm around Erika's neck and a rose in the other. Erika's on crutches.
Brandon's father had a nice car, and she was driving it, and I don't know, I guess the sun hit her just right, and she went to put down the visor, and her boyfriend wasn't too bright. He had all kinds of papers up there, and they fell in front of her, and she smacked into a little tree, broke her ankle. So the police department called me, and I had to go to the hospital, and she could have lost her foot. So she was determined she was going to walk, and she did too. And she graduated on crutches.
Carol said Erika was pretty even-keeled, but she struggled with her mental health and sometimes had bipolar episodes.
She had this little friend. She had diabetes, and she brought it to my house. She says, "Ma, can I make her a sandwich or something? She hasn't eaten all day and she got diabetes." So I said, well go ahead. That's the kind of person she was. She would give you the shirt off her back. But when she had her bipolar things, we all ran. And I'd tell her, don't let her in, let her calm down, then let her in. But she tried to get help for that, but nobody would help her because she didn't have the medical.
Do you remember the first time that you noticed that bipolar issue?
I think it was, I don't know. I know she had one episode where she broke my stove, but she replaced it. I don't really remember really offhand. Because really, she was really generally a pretty good-natured person. She was always laughing, telling jokes. That was Erika. Like I said, still she just started hanging around the wrong people. And, I tried to call people to, get help for her, and they told me, I'm sorry, but she's over 18, so she's got to, And when she called, they said, I'm sorry, you ain't got any medical, so we can't take you.
For many years, Kara Turner was Erika's closest friend. She declined to be interviewed for this podcast, but sent along an email detailing their friendship. Here, I'll read some of it for you. Erika was an amazing friend, but unfortunately, we grew apart and didn't speak again until years later. By that time, she was hooked on drugs and doing only God knows what to get them. I'll never forget that New Year's Day when we had all heard that she didn't make it to her mother's house. I used to sell drugs, and I remember driving up on the local street addicts, pressing them for information, but never getting far because I believe they were more afraid of whomever took Erika than they were of me. Thank God this is no longer my life. We used to say that we were like peanut butter and jelly, macaroni and cheese. We unofficially named each other the godmother to each of our firstborns. The funny thing is that when we first met, we were going to fight. It was a crazy Hamilton Avenue East Side Projects beef with anybody who wasn't from over there. LOL. I'm not quite sure, but I think that cutting school and smoking weed is how we ended up as friends. She was in NFA's ACEs program. So were some of my friends. I miss my friend. I miss the person she was before the drugs. I miss our minor arguments, our rides to nowhere, and all of the memories we could have had if only she was still here.
The funny thing is, when I got the message from you, I was sitting and thinking and racking my brain about where I met her.
That's Sarah Mack. She met Erika toward the end of 1999, when Erika's oldest son was 2 and Sarah's daughter was about to turn 1.
She was always such a guarded person. She didn't trust a lot of people, and I can't for the life of me remember how we met. But we clicked instantly, and we were together, almost every day.
Sarah figures she probably met Erika at Kara Turner's house.
Her mom was working at the casino at the time, and we would go riding around in her mom's car that we named Betty or Betsy, something. She's like, yeah, I'm going to go get old Betsy. And our tradition was to go to Bessie Inn when it was still open and get a tank, which is like the largest coffee in the world. And then we would go to Burger King, and she always got Junior Whopper extra onions, and I got the Whopper no onions. She was a French vanilla, I was a mocha.
I'm going to pause here to keep us locked in the late 1990s. In case you're wondering, gas back then was $1.20 per gallon. That Whopper, $2.
Anyone that knew her they would call her a bitch. They would say she's, stuck up or snotty, but she just never took shit from anybody. And that's what I always liked about her. And she knew I didn't take shit from anybody. And I think, that's why we got along so good. And we just had each other's back. She didn't. She wouldn't just trust anybody.
By happenstance, Sarah and Erika ended up working the same shift at a Sunoco on Route 32 for a while. Oddly enough, it was there that Erika met the father of her second son. Derek Schwendeman, or Cheech as he's known, used to stop by the station on his way to Mohegan Sun. He helped to build Sky Tower, the first of the casino's 2 hotels. It opened in April 2002. Erika's relationship with Cheech was tumultuous. That's one of the reasons Sarah Mack felt guilty when she had to move out of Norwich.
The last time I saw her, like I said, my sister and I got into a car accident in Florida. So the last time I saw her, she was in the hospital. She had just given birth to Destin. That's the last time I saw her before I went to Florida. And we took a picture. It's a Polaroid. That's how long ago it was. And she had green hair at the time. She was in her Johnny. I was holding the baby, and I had to leave the next day. So I just remember her being really sad about it because she was off and on about the way she felt about Cheech. And I felt, again, guilty, but my sister had gone to a car accident. They didn't know that she was going to live or die. So I had to deal with that, and I didn't have a choice but to go down to Florida where everybody in the family was.
Sarah stayed in touch with Erika by phone, she said, but she doesn't know the details of what Erika was up to in her final years. Another of Erika's friends, 38-year-old Dennis Ragston, was around during those later years. But he said he first met Erika in the 5th grade, also at the Jennings School in New London. After each of their families moved to Norwich, the 2 crossed paths again.
We were like 2 London people in Norwich.
Dennis called me from North Carolina, where he lives now.
Back then, the London people in Norwich didn't really get along. It was kind of like a clash of the schools and whatever. And once we ran into each other, it was like, all right, somewhere, you finally know someone where you know no one, one of those situations. So we just ended up friends after that.
This was before the days of Facebook and even MySpace, keep in mind. So the pair would chat on the telephone. Sometimes they'd run into each other at the skating rink. They even dated for a while, but Dennis dismisses that as puppy love. He liked Erika because she was outspoken, blunt even. She was the type of person who would tell you if something was stuck in your teeth.
She was just like me. I mean, that's what we tend to do as kids. We surround ourselves with people that are similar.
For much of the early 2000s, Dennis was dealing with his own, let's call them issues. In 1999, you see, he shot 2 men at the former Pool Hand Luke's Cafe, which was on Brainerd Street in New London. Both men survived, but Dennis got caught pretty quickly. He was hit with a 7-year prison sentence. When he finally saw her again, Erika was with a close friend of his.
I see how damn skinny she was. Because Erika was a big bone girl when we grew up. And I'm a big dude. And, I mean, I'm not stupid. When somebody becomes that skinny and that frail, you know, you could tell who does what. At
age 17, in 1997, Erika had her first son, Brandon Norton. At 20, she was charged with 6th-degree larceny and illegal use of a credit card. At 21, she had her second son, Destin Schwendeman. At 22, the cops again. Driving with a suspended license, evading responsibility, traveling too fast, and following too closely. At 23, possession of marijuana with intent to sell, possession of a controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, misuse of marker plates, and driving an unregistered vehicle. At 24, accessory to first-degree robbery, accessory to first-degree burglary, and carrying a dangerous weapon in a vehicle. Something had changed Erika Cirioni, transformed her from a homebody to a drug user, a young woman regularly getting into trouble with the law. Her nephew Jason thinks he has an idea what that something was.
I saw some serious patterns developing. I think some relationship issues and, you know, with her children's fathers, I think those are possible, you know, the beginning of the end type of situations when you look back on it. And I think there are some things that, you know, she wasn't ready for, you know, such as motherhood, but she wasn't ready for just to deal with these burdens and these traumatic experiences she had. And I think, you know, she, you know, from a certain point, it was, how can I hide them? How can I not remember this, look at this, or think about this? And, you know, that's just facing the truth.
Carol's a little more blunt about the men who allegedly abused her daughter. On short notice, I couldn't pull records to see whether either was convicted of the crime, so I'm omitting their names.
I wanted to kill the guys. One guy, matter of fact, I let it go because I wasn't sure. He got picked up with marijuana. He got mad at her and broke up with her because she didn't get him out of jail. You know, and she goes, I don't know what's going on. I said, well, I didn't like him anyway. He was trouble. And then she was, before that, she went with some guy. He had the nerve to bring his new girlfriend to my house, wanted to come in my house and get his things. I told the cop, I said, he don't live here. He lives in Greenville. But he just wanted to help himself. And he used to beat her up. And she just went downhill. It was almost like she just wanted somebody to pay attention to her. She wanted what her other friends had. Some of her friends were married and, you know, had homes. But she just drew the bad guys. And she was a bright girl. I mean, that subway, it was open down here by the marina for a little while. She was assistant manager there. You know, she wasn't a stupid girl. And then she started hanging around with these people that normally she would never do.
I probably couldn't even imagine, or I could, but, you know, the extent of those drugs was she was definitely doing, you know, all of them and having fun and, like I said, blocking out, you know, just doing whatever she can to block out things on a daily basis. And then obviously, you know, you got 2 or 3 more years beyond that, and that's those 2 or 3 years were the low of the low, you know, a few arrests, and just absolutely, you know, doing what she did until the day she was taken from us.
Erika's friend Dennis said he did what he could to get her back on track. He'd take her out for a meal or give her part of his paycheck on the days she helped him at the cleaning company where he worked.
I think it's a part of tough love. So, you know, after she helped me with the restaurants, you know, she would call and ask for some money, and we'd talk, like, and I'd tell her, like, I'm not giving you money to go get some drugs and shit. Like, you want to go out to eat? I'll come scoop you right now. We go eat something and all that. I'll help that. But I'm not putting cash in nobody's hands that I know does drugs.
Before things went off track, Erika and her few friends spent most of their time hanging out at one another's houses. They'd talk about the things that matter to teenagers. Jam Boys to Men, Tupac, Biggie in the background.
Anybody that was current.
That's Jason again.
She definitely knew the music. She was listening to the music and she loved it.
She didn't really go to concerts, though. There was only so much money to go around.
I don't think any of us really, had a chance. I went to my first one when I was 18, 19. But yeah, that wasn't really an option.
My grandma and mom did their best. They did their best to try to make it look like something else, but they had to work and they still didn't work enough. They could have worked all hours of the week, but they could only do so much. They're only human.
It seems Lisa and Carol don't know, or maybe don't want to acknowledge the extent of what Erika was doing on the streets. But in our later conversation, Carol said police insinuated she may have been a prostitute.
She had her problems. I can't say she was a hooker. I can't say she wasn't. I don't know. But all I know is when she wanted something, she came to my house. She needed a couple dollars. I wouldn't give her money. She needed cigarettes. I went and bought them.
That's Carol.
I took her to breakfast. I would not give her money because I felt giving somebody money like that, you don't know what they're going to do with it. At one time she came over. She cleaned a friend's house and she made some money, and I gave her the rest of the money because she found this dress she liked and she looked nice in it, really nice. And she goes, "How do I look?" I said, "You look really nice. You're very pretty. You look nice."
Carol said Erika wasn't eating very much in those last couple of years.
And I told her, "You're hungry." I used to leave the door unlocked all hours, all night. I used to leave my door unlocked. I told her, "You're hungry? Come in and eat." But I don't think she really liked to bother us too much, But she did come and she ate. One thing she says, "Ma, I would never do heroin because I seen people and that's the worst thing you could do." So I'm wondering if somebody didn't shoot her up with heroin. That's how she died. I don't really know. But a couple of her friends said no. She goes, she wasn't that bad into it. There's just so many people that she hung around with. These people, you'd really be shocked because it wasn't the kind of people she'd hang around with.
I was a little surprised at the way friends and other relatives said they withheld information from Lisa and Carol on purpose. But it makes sense to me, I think. I'll explain. Before Erika's disappearance, Jason was a young 20-something who saw how bad things were getting. That summer, he had wanted to have an intervention for her.
I was talking about it nonstop. Every time at that time I went back to school up at Springfield, Mass. And, I was competing and going full time and still trying to, be there for Destin and Brandon, her two kids. And, I would still obviously try to help out my grandmother tremendously. But I was still away from home. So that's when things obviously, towards that time when things were getting, much worse. That's just what it was. Any day now something could happen. You see the transformation in a person's body and face and actions, and then you see them change again. It's like, wow, like it just, you thought it shocked you and was something bad last time. And then a year later you see them again and you're like, wow, what is going on? And that's kind of what it was, you kind of saw the transformation, always wearing, jeans and long sleeves and whatnot, probably to cover certain things up. Who knows? I guess you could assume, and the makeup and whatnot, like just tons of makeup and, just hiding her beauty, hiding her face. Obviously her body was, her body was just, she was nothing compared to, what she once was. She was just...
In Erika's obituary, her family used a photo of her from her senior year of high school. It's completely different from the picture police distributed when she went missing all those years ago.
I don't know how my grandmother took it. Sometimes, like I said, you block out things, or as a mother, I can't even imagine, everything that my grandmother's been through. It still kind of, it kills me today to know she's hurting. I wish I could, I wish I could kind of I wish I could take her pain, man. I just wish I could take her pain. I don't care how much it hurts. I wish I could just do that for my grandmother if I could do one thing.
Just to remind you, after Erika disappeared, Carol lost her husband to cancer and her son to suicide.
I was really talking about an intervention. That's where I saw it. I actually was mentioning it a couple of years. I was talking about it for a couple of years now, just talking about it. And I was a young kid in my family, still trying to be the man, still trying to be someone who, brings us to another place and elevates us. I love my grandmother to death. And there's certain things that how do you tell her, and you're just a 22, 23, 24-year-old young kid, how do you tell her certain things, or how do you find a way? You've done other things within your family. Now, how do you find a way to bring this up? Because this is something that no one's going to want to talk about or stare at eye to eye.
Truth is, Jason never was able to arrange that intervention. So when Erika told her mom and sister she was trying to get clean, they believed her.
But she said she wanted a normal life back. She wanted the boys. She wanted a normal life. And everybody knew that. Everybody knew that she, was changing. And that's when she disappeared. She never got a chance.
Next week on Case Unsolved.
One of my supervisors come to me. He says, Carol, go to the office right now. She goes, where are your grandsons? I said, they're home. He goes, well, go home. They're digging up and looking for your daughter's body a couple houses down from yours.
When somebody goes missing for a great deal of time, you always have the thought in the back of your head whether this could be a homicide or if it's just truly a runaway. Ultimately, this one changed in 2012 when we found the remains.
And I feel bad for those kids that found her, because can you imagine, they must be having dreams. I mean, come on, you go outside to play and you see this skeleton with rocks on top.
So all appropriate leads are followed up. As far as how frustrating it is, it's extremely frustrating.
And the thing is, me, her, and a couple other people, we went around that area, but we never thought about getting out of the car and looking down. We just went around the river because I had a dream that she was laying in water.
We don't solve these cases. We don't have the knowledge. We're not there witnessing these things, okay? For these cases to be solved, people have to share that information. We just hope that, especially, particularly in this case, those people who want to do the right thing by the family, do it, obviously, sooner rather than later. And it's definitely later at this point, but sooner at this point would be nice.
If you have any tips about Erika Cirioni's murder, please contact the Norwich Police Department at 860-886-5561, extension 7. The anonymous tip line is at extension 4. Or you can call the New London State's Attorney's Office at 860-443-2835. If you have any questions about the Cirioni case, post it on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/caseunsolved, or email us at caseunsolved@theday.com. Case Unsolved is produced by Peter Wappy and me, Carlos Virgen. Reporting was done by Lindsay Boyle. Editing and audio mixing by Peter Wappy. Tim Cotter is executive producer, and Sassy Laranieta is associate producer. I produced the music used in the series. This has been a production of The Day in New London, Connecticut.